Hi, everybody. I am so happy to be here with you today to talk about progress, not perfection, how to let go of purity in your health and wellness journey. This topic is really dear to my heart because it is very essential to my own journey, and I'm going to share why that is with you now. So my habit change journey, it's hard to pinpoint, of course, when it began, but I would say officially began when I began practicing yoga in 2004. And I practiced yoga and started getting more and more interested. And then I took a yoga teacher training at 2007, began studying Ayurveda at that time. And then shortly after that, I became vegetarian. Then I became vegan. And then after that, after some time, I developed anemia. And then down the line, got pregnant, started eating meat again. And we're going to go through a bit of that journey. And I'm going to talk to you about kind of how I went through all those phases and where I've come to now. And a major theme that we're going to discuss is disease and the mind. So in Ayurveda, one of the major tenets is that all disease begins in the mind. So while Ayurveda is about health cultivation, about the foods that we eat, the care practices that we do, the lifestyle choices we make, it also really points to the mind as the origin of our peace or the origin of our dis-ease. So we'll talk a bit more about that. So when I completed my yoga teacher training, I was delving more into ahimsa, which is the idea of nonviolence in yogic philosophy. And when I became vegetarian, after some influence from other yogis that I knew, I thought that I'd finally found the right way to eat. I was tight about my food choices. I was ready to debate food ethics at a moment's notice. And frankly, I was pretty self-righteous and not very fun to be around. And worse than that, my internal mental environment was very harsh and judgmental. And this is where the idea of disease in the mind comes in. So that internal environment was kind of the background for all the choices that I made, even though, they may have been healthy choices on the surface. They were all coming from this place of judgment, harshness, strictness with myself. So to illustrate that point, I am going to go ahead and share my screen and share this fun video with you. If you watch The Good Place, it's one of my favorite shows, and the character Chidi is a really good example of this kind of mentality.
Okay, we have so many big choices to make. Let's start small. Do you want to use a dry erase board or the regular pen and paper? Just pick.
Chitty, just pick. Come on, Chitty, pick someone. Don't pressure me, Uzo. I have to consider all the factors. Athletic strategies, the fragile egos of my classmates, and gender politics. Should I pick a girl as a gesture towards women's equality? Or is that pandering? Or do I think it's pandering because of my limited male point of view? I'm vexed, Uzo, vexed. You're always vexed. Just pick. Okay.
It'd be easier to sort out the issue of dry erase versus paper if I could write down the pros and cons for each. But, of course, I would have to use one of them to write down the pros and cons for them, which is problematic.
Wow! Oh, you is spreading.
What?
Your indecisiveness is infecting me like a virus. Oh, Chidi, this could send us down a very dangerous path. If you can't make a choice, this whole neighborhood could fall apart.
Hey, getting close here. Just mulling the ethical ramifications of various soups.
Same old Chidi.
I can come back for a fifth time.
Yeah, maybe that's smart. No, let me think about that.
No! No more thinking, Chidi. Just do something. Indecision costs you so much agony in your life, right up to the very end.
30 minutes, Chidi? We've been trying to pick a bar for 30 minutes. It is literally impossible to be your friend. You're incapable of making a single decision.
Look, I know I can be indecisive, but what's the harm in taking a few extra minutes to find the perfect...
Chidi?
So that is my really extreme and silly example of what I was like when I was vegan. And it wasn't just about veganism. It was really about all the choices that I was making. So coming from this place of harsh judgment and looking for the right way to do everything, I was actually constantly judging myself and causing a lot of anxiety. I remember very clearly one time accidentally at a buffet thinking everything was vegan because I was at a vegan restaurant. It turned out it wasn't all vegan. And there was like some shrimp in one of the sauces that I put on my plate. And I genuinely had an anxiety attack of, what's the ethical thing to do? Should I throw it away? Should I eat it? Is it going to upset my stomach? Am I a bad vegan? The whole thing. And I'm young, I was 19 or so, 18 maybe. But yeah, it was very much like Chi, this high-strung ethics professor who becomes completely paralyzed whenever he has to make a choice about what appear to be inconsequential things. And I don't at all believe that we shouldn't care about the choices we make, but coming from a place of ease and a place of actual care, respect for, and reverence for our bodies is really what I have come to learn and appreciate and embrace. So I came across this term here, orthorexia. It was a term first coined by the American physician Steve Bratman in 1997. And it comes from the Greek word orthos, or right. And when I learned this word, there were just alarm bells going off in my head. I saw myself in this word. And if I hadn't sought out treatment for anxiety, I don't think I would have even recognized that this obsession that I had developed with making the right food choices or the general, health choices, ethical choices, whatever, I don't think I would have been able to see it for what it was. I was also studying to be a philosophy professor. I was in graduate school at the time. I was a very precocious and serious young student. And so I was very much like Chidi. But on the outside to everyone else, and even to myself, it just looked like I ate really healthy. And this is how healthy eating can hide an unhealthy pattern. So I want to talk about letting go without giving up. And that's what I mentioned before, where we still care. We still are making these choices, but they're coming from a place of love, reverence, ease, and appreciation for our life and our bodies and the world around us, rather than a place of needing to be right or fearing being wrong or being so afraid to misstep, So these are kind of my steps now that I incorporate in my life and that I teach in my creative self-care course. So one is feed your inner child, make a ritual out of what you eat and one that's based in pleasure. And then savor what you eat, appreciate your food for the life-giving nourishment that it is. Simplify, eat food, not much, mostly plants. That is a phrase coined by Michael Pollan in The Omnivore's Dilemma. And it is now my food mantra. When things get a little confusing, should I eat this? Should I eat that? What's better for my digestion? What's best for the weather? Just eat mostly plants and you're on the right track. Cooked plants, especially, but we'll get more into that. And then revisit your values, free yourself from the confines of ideologies. A really wise friend of mine once said, I was getting some coaching from him. He's the owner of a gym in San Francisco and a very great, wise coach that was a mentor to me. He told me that when I make ideology out of my values, I'm objectifying them. So values are living, breathing things that we enact in our lives. But when we turn them into dogma, we make them into an object, and then we're just living kind of like a robot based on rules. And that's just not a fun way to live. It's not a heart-centered way to live, and it's really not healthy. It creates disease, dis-ease. So what I begin with in my course is habit zero, which involves observing our behavior. So we observe without judgment. So going back to some of these, maybe our inner child wants to eat some macaroni and cheese, and that's okay. I believe that those kinds of what you might call indulgences are actually healthy in balance. And so we might observe, what is my inner child desiring? And then we'll reflect on the why without trying to, psychoanalyze ourselves or judge ourselves for it. And then we'll take note of any changes, like maybe when I'm menstruating, I really want this food. Or maybe when the weather's cold, I really want this food. Or maybe when I'm, hanging out with friends and I don't really feel like I have much of an appetite. I'm so distracted or I'm so in the moment. When I'm exercising, I really start to crave XYZ. It can really be a variety of things, and we can start to really deeply learn about ourselves. So this is one of my mantras that I use in my life and in my course. The desire to change is fundamentally a form of aggression towards yourself. The other problem is that our hangups, unfortunately or fortunately, contain our wealth. Our neurosis and our wisdom are made out of the same material. If you throw out your neurosis, you also throw out your wisdom. That is Pema Chodron. She is a Buddhist nun. And this quote is one of my favorites, all-time favorites, because it really points to the fact that those impulses we have that we demonize, that diet culture demonizes, those contain rich, fertile content that can really point us to our true selves. They can point us towards deeper health, because if we're constantly white knuckling and being strict with ourselves, we're just repressing, and that stuff's going to come up some way, somehow. It might not come up in what you're eating. You may look squeaky clean on the surface, but that stuff needs to be addressed. That material is our wisdom. And so that's what we address in creative self-care as well. We work on self-care as self-compassion. We work on patient, gentle baby steps towards health, ease, and acceptance. And we also honor the idea, this is a Buddhist proverb, when I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm tired, I sleep. This is the foundation of self-compassion, and it's the foundation of natural wisdom. Our bodies, our hearts, our minds, our spirits, they're designed to give us what we need. And so when we find harmony, we can trust our impulses. And if we're a bit out of balance, our impulses are still the information that we need to find balance. If we're craving something that we know isn't good for us, that craving, if we trace it back to its root, will tell us what we really need. And so that's where that natural wisdom comes in. And then our measuring stick is, how do you feel the next morning in body, mind, and spirit? And I tell everyone in the course to write this on their bathroom mirror, so that they can wake up and say, how am I feeling this morning, this moment? And what are the things that led to this? And what do I need more of? And what do I need less of? And that's how we kind of gauge our state of harmony or disharmony as we're going through the course. And then we take it with us. The biggest question ultimately is for right now, is this your medicine or is this your poison? And only you can know. And that is what we learn how to discern in the course. When we have too much input from the outside world, when we've been raised eating a certain way, or we've been raised with a certain lifestyle, or the people we're hanging out with have a certain lifestyle, sometimes we can't hear our inner voice and hear the needs of our body and our mind and our spirit. So one of the biggest skills that we work towards is listening to the intuition, hearing that voice, recognizing it. And finally, the course is ultimately about relaxing into our true nature. We're not here to become something else. We're here to become more of ourselves. So I love this Chinese proverb: tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. And so 90% of the course really is about relaxing into ourselves rather than fighting with ourselves to become something that we think we should be. So if you want to stay in touch, you can email me at hello@simplewildfree.com. Join our Facebook group, Creative Self-Care. Actually, this is incorrect. Creative Self-Care. And simplewildfree.com has more information about the course. It has a free e-course that you can take. And you can book a one-to-one call with me just to get more info, just to chat, ask some questions. I can coach you through a pain point that you have. And that's at simplewildfree.com/book. I hope to hear from you. I hope that I can be a part of your journey towards freedom, towards health, towards ease, and being at peace with yourself. Right. Thank you so much for joining. Take care.